Hello students, today we are going to discuss some concepts related to computer memory and they are linked with the computer programming. As we know now, memory is a device for storing the data and programs. Memory is an important resource of the computer system. It is a hardware resource. So far as computer resources are concerned, like keyboard, monitor, memory, CPU, etc., etc., these are the hardware resources, and programs, data files, they are the software resources. So the computer system consists of two main resources, that is hardware resources and software resources. Memory is also a resource and it is a hardware resource. Now, whenever we want a resource in a computer, there is a resource manager that manages all the resources of a system, and that resource manager is the operating system. All the memory of the computer system can be considered to be managed by the operating system. So operating system is a resource manager. It manages the memory. Whatever programs need the memory, they ask the operating system for the memory and the operating system provides them the memory provided it is available. Memory is not an infinite resource, it is a limited resource, and every program has the demand for the memory. It's one of the important resources that is continuously used by the programs. Since now it is clear that it is managed by the operating system itself is a system software that manages the resources of the computer system. It is a resource allocator and resource manager. All the resources of the computer system are within the control of the operating system. So operating system is sometimes called as control program also. Once a program needs a memory, it will ask the operating system for the memory. The operating system will provide the memory, and once the program uses the memory and it executes, when the program executes, the memory is free and it can be used by some other program. Giving and taking of memory is under the control of the operating system. So all the memory requirements are satisfied by the operating system provided it is available. Now, how do we get memory in a C program? We get memory in the C program. What we have learned so far is through declarative statements. Once we declare the variables or arrays or structure variables, we are actually asking the operating system for the memory. So the memory is accessible to the programmer through declarative statements. It's not necessary that whenever you write declarative statements or you ask for a lot of memory, that memory will be allocated. And mostly our programs have limited memory requirements and they get satisfied. But it's not the essential condition that the memory requirements of a particular program will be always satisfied, because as I told you, memory is the limited resource. So if you write a lot of declarative statement and you ask that much amount of the memory that is not connected to the computer system, you will definitely get a message from the operating system that so much memory allocation cannot be done. That operating system won't be capable of giving that much of memory that is more than the memory that is connected to the computer system. The operating system can satisfy your requests within the memory that is connected to the computer system, and once a program requires the memory, it will ask the operating system for that memory, and if that memory is available, the operating system will give the memory, and if it is not available, the operating system will give the message that memory is not available. Okay, so you should remember that memory is a limited resource, it is not an infinite resource, and all the programs need memory for execution as well as for storing their data. And for the programmer, the memory is available through declarative statements. Okay, then once we declare the variables, we always declare the variables within the main so far. But variables can be declared in any functions, and the functions the variables that are declared in a particular function are called local variables of that function. There may be some variables which are not declared within a function or any function. Such variables are called as global variables. Let us see this practically. What are local and global variables? I will have a detailed lecture on this, and it will be clear at that time. But I am simply introducing the concepts of local variables and global variables. Okay, let us see that. Now this is my main function, and I have suppose declared a variable int a. I am asking the actually operating system that I need a memory location of 2 bytes to store an integer. This is the meaning of this statement. I have explained it so far many times. Now let us create another function or define another function. Say suppose I create a function for adding 2 numbers. I'll call that function as a sum, and I declare 2 arguments for it. Suppose int a and int b. Let me call it as this as c and b. Okay, this is also a declarative statement, but of a special type, where you declare the variables within the short braces, and these are actually the data. These variables will be used to accept the data from the calling function. Okay, let us call this as an int, and let me store my answer in int d. Suppose d is equal to c plus b. Now I can say return d. I have explained all this, and I need not explain this in this lecture. I have already explained this in my video lectures on functions. Now I have created a function sum that accepts the 2 integers and adds them up and stores the answer in d, and returns that answer d to the calling function. Okay, now I have got 2 functions in this program. One is the sum function and one is the main function. Okay, so in the body of the main I have declared a variable a, and in sum I have declared 3 variables, that is int c, int b and int d. The c, b and d are called as local variables of sum. Okay, and a is called as a local variable of main. Why? Because a is declared within the main and d, c and b are declared within the sum. So every function has its local variables that are declared within its body. Okay, so we call the variables declared with the declarative statements in the body of a function as local variables. Now let us declare another variable. Suppose I declare another variable int g. Now g is not within the body of any function. Such variables are called as global variables. So we can declare 2 types of variables in C. One is local variables and another is global variables. Local variables are those variables which are declared within a function, and global variables are those variables which are declared outside the function. So this is a basic concept that I am introducing to you, and I'll be later on having a lectures on local variables and global variables and on storage classes. At that time we'll take this issue in detail, but it's a simple thing that what is a local variable. A variable declared within a function is called a local variable of that function. And if you have got 10 functions, then you have got declarative statements in those functions, and the variables that belong to a particular function, they will be called as a local variable of that function. Now if we have got the variables that are not declared in the body of any function, such variables are called as global variables. Okay, why we use local and global variables, that will be clear again as I told you in the discussion about local and global variables. Right now you remember that variables. Now these variables are basically memory locations which we are asking the operating system that we need these memory locations. And since we are not executing the program, we are writing the program first, so the operating system knows in advance what are the memory requirements of this program. Okay, now it's clear now what are the local variables and what are the global variables. Local variables are those variables which are declared within a function, and global variables are those variables which are not declared in any function. Their declarative statements are outside the body of any function. Okay, so we'll see about the details of local variables and global variables in another lecture. Now, once we have another concept, that is memory allocation. As I told you, giving a memory is called memory allocation, and taking back a memory is called memory deallocation. Whenever a program has got set of variables, that means it has got requirements of the memory, it will ask the operating system that it needs the memory. Once the operating system has a memory available, it will give that memory to that program, and that program can use that memory. And after using the memory, the program, once the program execution is over, the program gives back the memory to the operating system, and operating system can then allocate to some other program. Okay, if that program needs the memory. So as I told you, memory is a limited resource, and every program needs a memory. So before using the memory or getting the memory, the program will request the operating system for the memory, and if the memory is available, the operating system will give that memory. That is called as a memory allocation. And once the program finishes the execution, then that memory will be given back to the operating system so that it can give it to some other programs. As I told you, operating system is a resource manager. It manages all the resources of a computer system, and one of the resources that is managed is also the memory. It actually, operating system manages all the devices of the system, and memory is one of the devices among those devices. Whenever a program will need the device, it will ask the operating system for a particular device, and the operating system will grant that device to that program, provided it is available. And if it is not available, it will simply inform the program that it cannot give that resource, and the program has to wait for the resource till that resource is available, and operating system can provide it. Once the resource is available, basically the programs remain in the queue for the particular device, whether it's a memory or whether any other device, and the operating system picks a particular program from the queue, and sees what are the resource requirements of that program, and it tries to satisfies those resource requirements from the pool of resources that are available in the computer system. And if those resources are not available, then the program has to wait for that resource till it becomes available. Okay, now as I told you, memory allocation is giving the memory, and who is controlling the memory? This is operating system, and our program will ask the operating system for the memory, and it will give the memory. Now, as I told you, we get the memory mainly in our programs through declarative statements. Okay, declarative statements are used to declare the arrays, or they are used to declare the primitive data type variables. They are used to declare what you call structures, and they will be also used to declare unions and classes. I have not talked about union and classes till now, so you need not worry. I'll take that, and the concept is somewhat same to the structures. I have given some idea about the structures before this. Now, memory allocation can be of two types. One is a compile time allocation, and one is a runtime allocation or dynamic allocation. So operating system can allocate the memory by two ways. One is compile time allocation. What is that? Whenever we write declarative statements in our program, whether we are declaring the local variables or we are declaring the global variables, the operating system knows in advance what are the memory requirements of this program. It will give that much of memory to that program, and this type of allocation is called as a compile time allocation, because this is known as this type of memory requirement is known as the compile time. And again, these two topics are broad topics, so we will be handling them separately, but I am simply introducing today some concepts that will be required by the programmers, and it's a prerequisite for the programmers to know those concepts. Now this declarative statement, whatever variables we declare with the declarative statements, or whatever memory we procure through the declarative statements, that memory will be accessed with variable names, because once in a declarative statement we give the data type and we give the variable name. Okay, and that can be also accessed with another thing that is called pointers. I have not talked about pointers till now, but we can use pointers to access the variables that have been created through declarative statements. Okay, now simply for compile time what you call allocation, you remember this is known before execution, because the programmer has written all the declarative statements, and once the compiler compiles the program, it knows the memory requirements and it passes those requests are ultimately passed to the operating system, and it is the operating system who will satisfy these requirements. Okay. Now, another type of memory allocation is runtime allocation or dynamic allocation. Once the program is running, this type of memory is asked from the operating system once the program is running. Now, how do we ask the operating system for the memory? We have functions available in C or operators available in C++, and those operators and functions will be used to communicate with the operating system, and will ask operating system for the memory. And if the operating system has got the memory, it will satisfy our requests of the programs, and if it does not have the memory, then it will inform the programs accordingly that the resource is not available, that is memory is not available. Now, what are the different functions for memory allocation during runtime? Runtime means when the program is actually running. Okay, and at that time we'll ask for the memory. How we ask? We can use malloc, calloc, or realloc in C and new in C++. New is the operator, and then that memory does not have the variable names. Okay, that memory can be accessed with the pointers only. Okay. Now, what is memory deallocation? Once the memory is allocated during the compile time and the program execution is over, the program will release the resources. That is, it will release the memory because it does not need it now. Okay, that is called memory deallocation for compile time allocation. But for runtime allocation, once the program is running and it has not still finished execution, we'll keep on asking memory from time to time, and during the execution itself we can free some memory when we don't require it. That is that has been allocated during the runtime. We can free that memory during execution only. Remember it, that execution has not finished still. Why we free that memory? Because we don't need it, and so that operating system can allocate it for us, because I told you memory is limited. Once you require it, you ask it, and once you don't require it, you free it. So how do we free the memory using that has been allocated through dynamic allocation or runtime allocation? We have got two things available for that. One is free function that is available in C, and through free function we can deallocate the memory that has been allocated to malloc, calloc, or reloc. And delete is an operator that is available in C++, and that is used to deallocate the memory that has been allocated through dynamic allocation. Now, I think it's clear now. Compile time allocation is done before execution, and runtime allocation is done once the program is executing on the CPU. That is, it is running on the CPU. Okay, once the program is running on the CPU, it can ask the operating system for the memory, and the operating system can give the memory if it's available, or the operating system will inform to the program that it does not have a memory, and once the memory is available, we can store our data in that, and we can use that memory as per our requirements. Why we do like that? There are reasons for it, and I'll discuss it once I discuss the compile time allocation and runtime allocation in detail. Okay, now I think memory allocation and deallocation is clear. Allocation means giving the memory, deallocation means taking back the memory. Now, important concepts related to memory and functions are two more concepts. They are very important so far as once we will move from C to C++ mostly, and within C also they have their own significance. That is, what is a memory access and what is a function access. Okay, let us see them in the next slide. Now, accessing a variable, array, structure, or class. Okay, now as we know, the memory is available to us in C or C++ through a variable, or through an array, or through a structure, or through a class. Once we create a variable, we can access that variable, and variable is nothing but a memory location. Once we create an array is again a set of memory locations. So array is also a memory. It is actually a memory that has got a group name, and that has got a subscript. Now, structure, again, structure, once we create a structure variable, we have got a structure variable, and for that variable the memory is allocated for different members of the structure. We have already discussed what are structures. Same way, we have a class. It is somewhat similar to structure, with a little difference, and that difference will take once I teach object oriented concepts. But class and structure almost same in C++. Okay, with a little difference, of course. Now, performing a read and write operations on memory means accessing a memory. I'll repeat it 3 times so that you remember what is accessing a memory. Accessing a memory means performing read or write operations on a memory. As I told you in previous lectures, the memory is a hardware location, and on that location you can do 2 things. You can either store something in it, or you can retrieve something from it. Storing something on it is called a write operation, and retrieving something from the memory is called as a read operation. These are the 2 basic operations that are performed in any type of the memory, and these operations, by performing these operations, we mean what is called as accessing a memory. So accessing a memory means performing read and write operations on the memory, and performing read and write operations on a variable or an array element or a structure member or a class member means accessing a particular thing, accessing a variable or accessing an array element or accessing a structure member or accessing a class member. Okay, so accessing as the variable means we can do read and write operation on that variable. Okay, or accessing an array element means we can do read and write operation on the array element, and accessing structure means that we can access the member of a structure with a structure variable. That is, we can perform a read and write operation on the structure member. Okay, because structure member is again either a basic data type or derived data type, and we can access that, and I'll take show some programming exercise on it so that it will be clear. Okay, now, but you remember that accessing a memory is nothing but performing read and write operations on the memory location. Performing read and write on the memory, read and write operations on the memory location is called as accessing a memory. Accessing a memory, this is a technical term. Following are all memory locations. As I told you, variable is a memory location because the name that we give to the memory location. Array element is again a memory location. Structure member, actually structure members are of 2 types. One in C++, one is what we call as a data member, and one is a function member. What we have seen so far in the previous video lecture about structures, the members that I created were all data members, and once I talked about accessing a data member, that means accessing a variables, accessing a variable that has been declared within the structure, or accessing an array element that has been declared within a structure, or accessing a structure variable that has been defined within a structure. We have not taken this concept yet. And then accessing a class member is same as what is accessing a structure member, and accessing the union member is also same. Of course, there is a difference between structure, class and union, but it's not it is a minor difference, and once I take video lectures on class and union, it will be clear. Okay, next, what you should remember up to now, that accessing a memory location means performing read and write operations on a memory. But we are already doing those operations, but let us ponder on it, and let me tell you how we do it. Now, once we input a value from an input device and store it in a variable, how we use scanf. Why do we use scanf? We use scanf to input a value from a keyboard, and we can go to the ID and see it there. But let me first read this out. Input a value from the input device and store it in a variable. As I told you, variable is a memory location. So once you input a value from a keyboard and store it in a variable, that means you are writing that value into that variable. You are performing a write operation. So with scanf, we are actually performing a write operation. And we have got something in C++ that we will see today also, that is Cin. It works exactly like scanf, but with the difference that it's not a function. First difference, and second difference is that it is an object of a stream class, that I'll tell later what is an object. And you can remember that we don't have to give format specifiers in Cin. Okay, then we can use gets to input the strings from the keyboard, and getchar to input a single character from the keyboard, and getch and getche. We have used these functions. I have taken video lectures on this. These are character input function, that is getchar, getch and getche, and gets is the string input function. Okay, again we take the inputs from the keyboard and we store them in a variable, or we store them in a string. Okay, all these functions are input functions, and input functions means once we use the input function, you are actually taking values from the keyboard and storing it in a memory, whether that memory is a variable, or whether that memory is an array element of an integer array or float or double array, or it is an element of a character array. Okay, or we take directly as a string of characters from the keyboard, and then we store them element wise in the array. And this is actually done by compiler once by the compiler once we use gets. Okay, Now Cin is not a function, it's object of string class that I told. So all these functions perform memory access, whether you are using scanf or cin or gets or getchar or getch or getche. These are all input functions. Input function means you are inputting a value from an input device such as keyboard and then storing that value in a particular memory whose name is mentioned in a scanf or in cin or in gets or getchar or getche or getche or getch. Okay, then let us see how we do it now. How let us do a bit of explanations about it and see what is happening here. Okay, now let us see how we use scanf. See, actually A is a memory location. I say scanf, then I give the format specifier, suppose %d because it's an integer, and then I give the name of location A, and that name should be always, sorry, this is small a because C is case sensitive, and I can place ampersand here. We have to do it for scanf, variable name followed preceded by ampersand, and this is how we scan a value. And we can watch Alt W and sorry Alt D, and we can watch it. And what are we watching? We are watching a memory location A. Let us see what happens in this case. First let us run this program. Now see where main is being executed, because this is the first function that is executed. You should remember that main is the first function from where execution will begin. The statements of main will be executed one by one, and at the end the program will terminate once the execution of main is over. Okay, so main is the first function that is executed. Okay, now see here we have a location A. I have asked the I have written a statement, the declarative statement. I am asking for a memory, and I have given the name for that memory, and what is stored in that memory is some junk value that I have not given. Now I am scanning a value from the keyboard. Suppose I scan value as 5, and if you see now A is having 5. That means I have inputted the value from the keyboard, and that value has been written on into the A. That is why I got value of A as 5. Okay, I think this is clear now. Same way, let us now use Cin. Cin is used for input. C stands for console, in stands for input. Okay, now Cin uses two arrow operators. You have to use this symbol, two greater than symbols, and then you have to give name of variables. Very simple, no need to worry. Simply you have to use Cin, no format specifier, nothing. Cin, then we use the operator. This is called Cin operator that is used, that is two greater than symbols, and this is called a extraction operator. Now I use F7. What are the errors? Once you use Cin, yes, you have to include iostream.h, because right now Cin and Cout are used in C++, not in C. Hash include iostream.h. You have to include this file because this object is available in this header file. Okay, now once we execute the program, first I am scanning A. Suppose I input the value 78, and you can see here 6, A is having 78. Now I am inputting A again, but not with scanf. I am using Cin, and I told you Cin is an input function. It inputs the value from the keyboard and stores it in a variable whose name is given with the Cin after the operator two greater than symbols. Okay, let us see. Oh, sorry. Now I input it. This is 89. Now if you see A has a new value 89. Okay, so Cin is used for input. You don't have to write the format specifier. You have to simply write Cin, and then you have to write the variable name after the what is called extraction operator or extraction operator. Two greater than symbols is called as extraction operator. Okay, now another we have got Cout. How we use it? We use for printing on a screen, we use printf. Okay, and then we can see what is in our variable. We first give the format of our specifier of our variable. Okay, that's %d for integers. Then I can give another thing, that is A. I can display A, and it will be the current value of the A that will be displayed. Okay, we have to give printf. Okay, printf. Now I run my program. There are some errors. Let us see. Oh, I have not given the terminator here. Let me give the terminator. I give the terminator. Error is over. Or now I scan the value. So this is 67. If you see here, A is now 67. Okay, I'll close this. Okay, A is now 67. Okay, then after that I again use cin. I give the value as 89. Now if you see A is 89 with cin. Okay, printf %d A. Okay, if you see again on the screen, again 89 is displayed there. So this is what is the value of the A that we have input. So how do you display it on a screen? Using a printf. Let me clear the previous contents. CLR SCR. Okay, and then I can use here cout. This is called as put operator or insertion operator. Okay, then I can put the value of A on a screen. So cin and cout. Cin is used for input, just like scanf, but you don't have to give format specifier. Cout is used for displaying the messages as well as the contents of a variable. How you have to use this cout, then you have to use what you call put operator or insertion operator, and then the name of a variable. So it will work like printf. We can use again using cin and cout is simple, and all programs that I have shown you so far, you can do one thing. You can use now cin and cout in them, so that I will show you how to give the message cout again, and the insertion or put operator. Then we can call, give the message, enter, value of A is equal to cout can be used to display message and display the contents of variable, just like printf. Okay, you don't have to use short braces here. You have to write cout, then you have to give the put operator or insertion operator, and in case of cin you have to give the extraction operator. Cout, let me give the message. You can again use this operator and give the message, enter the value of okay. Now let us run this program. Statement missing. I have not given the terminator somewhere. Here I have to give the terminator at the end of cin and cout. At the end of the statement there should be a terminator. Now let us run this program. The screen is cleared. Enter the value of A. Don't worry about this. The message has come. Then I enter the value as 56. Okay, then again the message will come. It will again jump into the header file. Don't worry about this. And you see here now it has displayed the contents of A. That is 56 is displayed. Value of A is equal to 56. So how did it display the value of A is 56? Because we have said cout A. A is a variable and its contents can be displayed on the screen using cout, and it can be input also using a cin. Cin is same as scanf, and cout is same as what you call as printf. Okay, so let's go back to our main topic. Okay, so we have seen how cin can be used to input the value from the keyboard, because I have written here input the value from the input device and store it in a variable. And this is basically we are talking about what is a memory access. Memory access can be achieved through things. One is the read operation and one is the write operation. And we have told that whenever we input a value from the keyboard and then store it in a variable or in an array element or in a structure member or in a class member or in a union member, that is called as what is called writing onto that memory. Okay, so all these functions and perform the write operation, and cin also performs the write operation on a variable. Okay, let us now see how the read operation is performed. The read operation can be performed how? Output the value stored from the memory to the output device, that is the user screen. User screen is the output device. How do you output the contents of a variable on a screen? You can use printf, or you can use puts to display the strings on the screen, or putchar to display a particular character on a screen, or cout in C++ to display the contents of a variable or a array element or structure member on a screen, user screen. Okay, all these functions are output functions and perform a read operations on the memory. So cout is not a function, it is an object of a stream class. This I have already told. Cin is also not a function and it's the object of stream class. Okay, so all these functions perform memory access. On which things they perform memory access? They can perform a memory access on variable, on a structured memory, array element, class data member, or member of a union. Okay, once you display you are able to display the contents of a variable or a structured member or a array element or a class data member or a member of a union on a screen that is equivalent to reading that member or reading that memory and displaying the contents of that memory on a screen. Actually, once we input the number with the scanf, we are basically reading the number from the keyboard and then writing it onto the memory location whose name is specified in scanf, and same is true of cin. And this is what we do in cout. Okay, cout and printf. That is, we can display the contents of a variable or a structure member or a class member, provided they are data members or a union member on the screen. So read and write operations are what we mean by access. And actually I can say here, if I go back to the IDE, I am basically accessing A. How I am accessing A? Because I am able to input the A and I am able to output the A. This is called accessing a. Accessing means writing something onto the A or reading something, reading the value of A and displaying it on a screen. So memory read and write operations are called as access, and I have shown you two methods how we read and write, perform read and write operations on the memory that is available to us through the declarative statements. Okay, now how do we perform read and write operations? Yes, there is one more simultaneously that can be done in a single statement using assignment statement. Because once we say variable equal to expression, what happens here? Whatever value is computed in the expression, that is stored in a variable. Storing something in a variable means again writing into the variable, and whatever variables that I have used in the expression, I am reading from those variables. Okay, and so in a assignment statement, whatever is in RHS of the expression, I am performing a read operation on it, and whatever is in the LHS of the assignment statement, I am performing the write on it. Okay, and what can be on the left of the assignment statement? It can be a variable, it can be an array element, it can be a structure member, it can be a union member, or it can be a class member, provided structure member, union member, and class member are data members. That is, they are variables of type primitive data types, or they are derived data types such as array, or they are variables of type user defined data type, like they are the variables of type structure itself, which has been defined within the structure or outside the structure. Okay, now on LHS write operation is performed, and on RHS read operation is performed. We can see again in a compiler, and maybe that will help you to understand this. So suppose I have declared A and I am inputting the value of A. I can now say, if I say B is equal to A, what does this mean? That means I am storing the value of A in B. I am storing the value of A in B through this assignment statement. Storing value of A in B means first I have to read what is in A, because A is actually a variable, and variable is nothing but a memory location. So I have to read what is in A, and then storing it in B means I have to write it in a memory location what is whose name is B. Okay, so this is in this statement that I am performing read and write operations simultaneously, and performing read operation or write operation is called as accessing a memory. So I am performing a memory access operation. Okay, I am basically explaining what is memory access. Okay, so memory access is done through read operation or write operation. Okay, and in this statement I am performing both read and write operation. Okay, I can again write 10 here. That means again constants are not read or written, they are already part of the statements, and then what you are doing, you are reading the value of A, adding the 10 to it, and storing that in a B. Reading a value of A does not change A, but writing a value onto the B changes B. Okay, I have already explained it so many times, and I think it will be clear now. So what are the these? So in the assignment statement, we are again performing memory read and write operation, and performing a memory read and write operations on variable or array element or structure member or union member or class member is called as what you call accessing a memory. So memory accesses can be performed through input functions or output functions or through assignment statements. Performing memory accesses simply means performing read and write operations. Okay. Now, what is accessing a function? Basically, we have to discuss two topics today. That is accessing a memory and accessing a function. Now you have seen what is accessing a memory. Accessing a memory, as you know now, is performing read and write operations. And as you know now, read and write operations can be performed through input functions or output functions or assignment statements. Okay. Now what is accessing a function? Accessing a function means calling a function. That means when a function is able to call another function, we say that function is accessing that function. And if it's not able to call that function, we'll say this function cannot be accessed. Okay. Right now, let us see what is accessing, and later on I will show you what is not accessing. But first, we should understand what is accessing a function and what is accessing a memory. Accessing a memory means performing read and write operations on the memory, and accessing a function means performing calling a function or using a function. If we are able to call a function or use a function, we can say we are accessing that function. These are two important concepts. Okay. Now let me come to the crux of this lecture. Let us discuss what is accessing a structure member or accessing a class member. I'll discuss the structure member today, then we can see the class member in the later classes once I take object-oriented concepts. But the concept is same. There is no difference at all. Using structure member in a scanf and a printf function in C or C in or C out is called in C++ is accessing that member. Okay. Using a structure member in an assignment statement is again accessing the member because we have seen whatever is in a LHS of the assignment statement we are writing onto that, and whatever is in the RHS of the assignment statement we are reading from that. And accessing a function means calling a function. Let us see this. Now I have already discussed what is a structure. Okay. Let me declare a structure. Okay. How do we declare a structure? We write a keyword struct, then we give a struct name is struct, struct, then we give a structure name, say s, then we write the two short braces and we give a terminator, and within these two short braces we declare our variables. Suppose int p and int h. Now this structure has got two members, that is p and h, and one is a what you call integer. Let me put this as an array. Okay. So a member can be a simple basic data type variable, or it can be an array, or it can be a structure variable also that we have not seen. That is we'll see that later. Let us now see what we are doing. We have got two members in the structure, or we have got two members in the structure. One is p and another is h. And once we have defined the structure, the next step is declaring the variables of the structure. How we declare it? Then we can say struct. Okay. Now if you see, we have defined the structure not within any function, not within the body of any function. So this is one way of defining the structure variable. Okay. One way of defining the structure, but we have not defined this structure in any what you call function. So we can later on explain to you why I did it like this, but this will be simple for you to learn right now, why we do follow this method right now, so that it will be easy for you to work with the structures. Now there's a struct s, and we are creating a variable O. Okay, this is what we learned in the previous what you call video about structures. What is, now we have got a structure s, it has got two members p and h, and we have created a structure variable O. How do we create a structure variable? We write the first line here, that is the struct s. Now struct s is a user defined data type or a template or abstract data type, and we can create a variable of type struct s by writing the variable name after the struct s, that is after the first line of the structure. Okay. Now as you see, now this structure has got two members, one is p and one is h. P is a what you call integer element, and h is a what you call array. Let me first access p and element of the H. Accessing an element, you know, is either use it in an assignment statement or use it in a cin or cout or scanf or printf. Okay, let us first access the p. Okay, if I say p is equal to 10, let us see what happens here. Now p is declared here within the structure. Okay, let me see if I can access the p or not. Okay, and so on. You see there will be an error. Okay, what is the error? Undefined symbol p. P does not have an individual existence. This I have explained in the previous video lecture. And H does not have an individual access. We are simply in defining a structure by saying what is the structure of our record. And in our record we have got two what we call fields. One is P and one is H. P is an integer and H is a integer array. Okay, but these two what we call variables are not created unless we create a structure variable, and through the structure variable we can access these members. What are the two accesses that will be performing with this O? One is we can access the P and we can access the H. Now we try to access the P without a structure variable and we saw that there was an error. Now let us access it with O.P equal to 10. Why is it an access? Because I told you once we use an assignment statement and whatever is on the left of the assignment statement, we are performing a write operation on that, and performing a write operation on memory is accessing a memory. Okay, now see here it works. That means we can access the P. Okay, let me watch also. Now my variable name is O. Okay, and once this is over, I can tile the window. Okay, let me close this one also. Now we have got two windows open here. We can zoom this window, or we can tile this so that it will be clear. Now you can see. Okay, now we can run the program again. Now if you see, we have got a structured member, we have got a structured variable O. The first member is the integer, and the next member, that is integer P, and the next member is the array H. If you see, we have also discussed about this. Once we create a structure variables, they get default values if we don't give them the value. Default values are those values which are given by the compiler, and if we don't initialize our structure variables, they will get default values. So the P has a value 0 right now. Okay, and the three array elements, they have also called, they have also the value 0, because integer, float and double, they will receive a 0 value, and if it's a structure, sorry, string, it will be initialized to null. So we have discussed that in the previous video lecture. Now if you see here, I say O.P is equal to 10. That means O.P is the first member. Now if you see, this member has changed, it has changed to 10. Okay, so this is a clear indication that I have written into that memory whose name is P. Okay, but the name of that memory is actually O.P. Okay, now O.H is an array element. I can say it is equal to of 0th element of that array is equal to O.P. That means again I am accessing the memory here. What I am accessing? I am accessing the array element of a structure array. Array element of the array element of H that has been declared within the S with O, and I am also accessing P. How do you know it's accessing? Because I am using an assignment statement, and on the LHS of the assignment statement, I am writing on to that element, and on the RHS I am reading from that what you call member, from that member. Okay, now if you see here again, O.P is equal to 10. This I changed, so I have accessed it. I have written onto P, and now another member of the O is H. See, O has got basically two members, one is P and one is H. First member P is an integer, and the second member H is an array of 3 elements. What I am accessing? I am accessing the first element of the H, but H does not have an individual existence. It can be only accessed through O. Now once I say O.H of 0, So O dot h of 0 is this element, that is the first element. Okay, h of 0, h of 1 and h of 2, because it has been declared as array of 3 elements. If you see here in the definition of the structure, h has been declared of 3 elements, and the next step I have declared a what you call structural variable. Now through that variable I first O dot p, I am accessing the first member of that variable, because that variable will be having two members, as is clear from the definition of the structure. Now O dot h is another member. See here, if you see O dot p, that is the value of 10 will be assigned to the first element of the array. Okay, see here, now h of 0 has changed and it has a value 10. This is an indication that I have accessed this member, so I can access the members of a structure. Now if I see, if I can input the members, how do I input with cin? I can say cin. Cin actually means I am inputting from the keyboard whatever value I type on the keyboard. I am suppose storing it in h of 2. Okay, because h of 2, sorry, O dot h of 2, O dot h of 2, that is the structure variable dot is second member, but which element? This is again I am accessing the array element of a particular structure variable, and if you see here, this will work. Now first O dot p has been initialized to 10, this we have seen. O dot h has been initialized to 0 here, and now I am inputting O dot h. Now this is equivalent to accessing the memory. See, h is an array and it is accessible now. See here, that value has changed. The value has changed because it has been written onto that element. This value has been written onto that element. And cin, as I told you, this is used for write operations. So we can access this member also. That is this. Now what we have seen in this exercise, we can access p, we can access h of a particular structure variable. What do we mean by accessing? Since these two are memories, and we can access these memories, that is, we can perform read operations or write operations. We can equally say cout O dot p. Now again I am accessing this memory, that means I am reading this memory and displaying that value on the user screen. You can see that also. What is the problem? Illegal structure. Oh, sorry. Cout, you have to use this operator. That is put or insertion operator. I have not used the correct operator. You have to use the correct operator with cin and cout. I told you cin is like scanf and cout is like printer. Simply you don't have to give the format. Okay, now cin, we input a value 78. If you see here, 78 is stored in h of 2, that is the third element. And if I say cout O of p, you can see whether that is displayed on the screen. See here, 10 has been displayed on the screen because O dot p initialized to 10. Okay, so we can input a structure member, we can output a structure member, we can initialize a structure member with assignment statement, and we can assign one member to another. These are all memory access operations. As I told you, memory access operations are of two types. One is we can read or we can write. And how we realize it through programming statements, that is, we can use the input functions or we can use the output functions, and we can use assignment statements to access the memory locations that are available to us. Okay, now in all these accesses we are performing a compile time. In all these accesses, what we are doing, we are accessing memory locations, but these memories have been made available to us through declarative statements. And again, the memory accesses are again of two types, that is read and write. Okay, now if I have a structure, can I have a function within a structure definition? It is possible. It is possible in C++ to write a function. As I told you, we cannot, so function is an independent block of code, and we cannot define one function within another function, but we can define a function inside a structure. Let us see that also. Let us suppose we have a function int that subtracts two numbers, that is a and b. We can say int a comma int b. The function is to be defined as we do it normally. Same procedure has to be followed. We have to write two short braces, we have to write two curly braces, and the body has to be within those two curly braces. But here important thing is that this function is now within this structure definition, because structure definition starts with this first curly brace where the cursor is there, then it ends here. That's the last curly brace where we have got a terminator, and this function is defined within the structure. Now the structure has got two members. One is a p, which is a variable, and another is a h, that is a variable, set of variables, that is 3 variables. But another member is now what you call a function. So within a structure we can have the data as well as code. P is said to be data member, h is said to be data member, but this is called as a function member. Now how do we write a function subtract? That is, we write it answer, then we say, sorry, we can write int answer, then we say answer is equal to a minus b. Okay. Then we can say return. We know how to design functions now. I have already shown exercises on it, and if you have not watched that, you will watch that. Okay. Now I have got a function subtraction within the structure definition. Okay, let us first call this function and see if we can access this function or not. Let us first call the sum function, because sum is not within the structure definition. This will be clear for clarify one more thing. I can say sum function and I can give two values. This is an independent function and it is not a part of any structure definition. Okay, so I am calling sum with two values, 2 and 3. Okay. Let me remove these statements. As I told you, there are two things that we discussed in today's what you call presentation. One is accessing a memory and another is accessing a function. Now accessing a memory means performing a read and write operation on the memory, and the memory that is available to us is in the form of variables or arrays, or it is in the form of structural variables, and then with those variables we can access the data members of a structure, or union variables, and or class variables, also called as objects. Now first we clear the screen, then we are calling the sum has been called. This is how we did it earlier also. So once we call a function, who is calling this function? Main is calling, because the call is function call lies within the main. So main can access the sum. This is what we mean by accessing a function. Now let us see we can access the subtraction function that is within the structure S. Okay, if we access the subtraction function within the structure S, you will see we cannot access this. Why? There is a no. Let us now call this function, because subtraction is the member of this structure. Now this structure has got two members. One is the data members and one is a function member. Okay, so P is the data member of the structure and H is again a data member of the structure, and we can have function within the structure also. Okay, this is possible in C++. We can have function within the structure definition. Okay, but we cannot call that function what you call without a structure variable. How do we call it with a structure variable? You have to simply say O dot, because here we have created, let me remove this again so that it will be clarified. Now we'll brush up with the thickness. So first I created a structure S, then I created two data members within it, then we have got another function definition within the structure, then I created a structure variable. Now I tried to access first, if you have seen, a P and H independently of the structure variable. It did not work. Once I used O dot P and O dot H, I could access P and I could access the array elements of H that belong to O. Okay. Now can I access the function? I tried to call a function that is a subtraction function that is within the structure. It did not respond. Now let me call it with O. I have called O dot subtraction. So if this works, that means we can call a function. See here, we are calling this function that is within the structure. So what is the method of calling this function? The method of calling this function is same as how we call the normal functions, but again you have to precede the function call with the variable name followed by a dot operator, then function name. If it would have been a function that was not a member of a structure, you could have called that function without these two things. But since it's a member of the structure, you have to use the variable name and dot operator. So this is how we access a function. As I told you, there are two things that we discussed today. To summarize, one is accessing the memory and accessing a function. Accessing a memory means performing a read and write operation on a memory, and accessing a function means calling or using a function. Now then we check whether we can access the structure members or not. Again, we try to access the structure members. Now we have got two type of members within the structure. One is the data member and one is the function, and we can access the data members and function only once we have created the objects of variables of type structure. So first we define the structure, then we can create a variables of the structure, then we access the different data members. That means we were able to input them from the keyboard, or we were able to display them on the user screen, or we were able to use them in the assignment statements. Okay, then we also access the function member of the structure. How did we access? We were not able to call the function independent of the what you call variable name of the structure. We have to always in a call we have to give not only the name of the function and the actual arguments, name of the structure variable, as well as the dot operator. In case of class, we call the variables of type class as objects. Okay, that we'll see later. I hope it's clear now that structure can have two members, one is data members and one is function members, and both these members can be accessed through variables. And I have clarified what do you mean by accessing a what you call a variable or accessing a function or accessing a memory. In short, accessing a memory and accessing a function. I hope you have enjoyed today's lecture. Thank you.